Welcome to Ralph's Flybox. After posting my last video on the dredge nymph, it's been requested by more than one person that are asking me whether or not I have tied it in a bead head. And I never did. I really never even considered it because the dredge worked from the beginning as tied, and the profile gives a slightly tapered head to it. And that's what I was looking for. However, I do see the purpose and the need and the application for a very heavy tungsten beadhead dredge. So I can't say that I've fished this fly. This fly is coming off my bench. It's an adaptation to the dredge, and we'll go over what I came up with. If you see something you think would perform a little bit better, by all means give it a try. But here's a response to the requests that I've received. I'm going to start off with a black tungsten bead and a size 12 Orvis beadhead hook. And we're going to apply about a half dozen wraps of lead substitute wire, size 20. For no other reason but just to seat the bead. I prefer doing that versus building it up with thread, and I like to make sure that it stays in place and tight against the eye. And we're going to start our black uni thread. Make sure that that lead wire is in place. And then we're going to bring our thread to the rear. Now I put this pattern together in the hopes of not changing the materials much at all, if any. It will change the profile a little bit, moves everything back. I like to avoid using a bead at times because it does push the materials in the abdomen and the thorax to the rear of the fly. It shortens the body a little bit. So it does change the profile, but I think we can manage with what we have here. And again, we're going to take about 6 fibers of black pheasant tail. We're still going to tie them in about shank length. I need to sand my fingers a little bit. The winter's got my hands grabbing the thread terribly. I'm sure everybody knows that feeling. And then once we start the tail, I'm gonna again bind down the butts because they will be pulled forward. And the next material is the black uni wire or ultra wire. We'll tie that in with the butts, right even with the lead. And we'll bring the material forward. And then the next material, like the standard dredge, will be peacock herl. And we're going to tie that in right behind those lead wraps as well. Trying to keep the profile as close as possible to what we had with the original dredge. And then bring our thread forward. At this point, we're going to wrap the peacock herl. Again, it will remain single layer. We're not going to build it up. That one strand does not want to cooperate. And we'll keep those fibers together as close as possible. And we'll bring that peacock herl right up to the back, but we'll tie it off over the lead so we don't shorten ourselves. And it gives us something to tie back into if we want. You can always tie back into the abdomen a little bit. And then we're going to bring our pheasant tail fibers forward, still sticking with the same format as the original dredge. And if we can get our wire, and then we're going to bring our wire forward. Still only going to get a few wraps out of it. Your thorax is shortened a little bit. And then we'll trim the butts of both the wire. It's a little bit heavier wire. So I like to use, whenever I'm cutting heavy wire, I like to use the base of the scissors. Don't ever use the tips of your scissors on heavy wire like that. You'll just shorten the life of your scissors unnecessarily. Make sure that wire is out of the way. Left that in the bad spot. Okay. The next material you're going to tie in is your second clump. Pheasant tail fibers. And you're going to try and even the tips as much as possible. They do tend to taper apart a little bit. Don't take for granted that pheasant tail fibers are the exact same length, because they're not all the time. Okay, and you're going to measure them at shank length, and take that shank length and tie it in at the back of the thorax. And clip off your butts and get them out of the way. And next you're going to tie in your ostrich herl. It's going to be a little bit shorter thorax. I'm tying 2 in. And then you're going to dub your small section of black ice dub. So we're staying as close as possible to the original, trying not to shortchange any material. And adding probably even a little bit more weight with the tungsten. And bring our thorax forward, and then follow up with the ostrich herl. And a little fewer wraps in that than the original. I've had people ask me why I use the ostrich herl a along with the pheasant tail for the legs, that the ostrich herl suffices for legs. And I agree if all I was tying was a caddis imitation pattern, but this nymph is a dark nymph. I think it doubles as a stonefly, a caddis larva, case caddis. It covers a wider range if you add both. Alright, and then we're going to bring our wing case forward, keeping it up top. And then, like the other one, separate your legs as equal as can be. If you can do it in a better manner than I do, since I feel like my fingers are scales right now and they're grabbing the thread. There we go. Make sure that we're about even. We're going to bring the legs back on the sides. We're not going to wrap them underneath. You want them splayed out slightly. When they get wet, they'll wrap tight to the body. But if they're splayed out slightly, they'll give a little bit more movement in the water before they suck back into the body. And a quick dab of head cement. I think we've got it. And 20 years later, we have a beadhead version of the dredge. Looks to be fairly functional. Be heavier for sure. And I hope it adds to your box. I'll give it a try on mine as well. And I'll let you know what I find out this winter. If you do, please post your results with the pattern. Thank you very much. Have a good holiday and see you in the water. Thank you.